And we are live. Let's get ready to talk about some boxing circus. Yeah, woo! Boxing circus. You ready for the boxing circus? Oh my God. But who are we, Mike? Who are we?
We are the Leg Kick on YouTube and Spotify and all kinds of other stuff.
You can find us where you find video and podcasts. Check us out. If you're here, you already know what we do. Recap the fight, precap the fight, even dance for your entertainment. But before we proceed,
Stefano doesn't mean twerk.
I do twerk. I got a booty that don't quit. Now, before we get into it, let's discuss the news, shall we, Mike? What do we have on the docket?
Well, hold on. I did not get all these great transitions just for free, just so we don't use them. So, transition.
Let's get into the news and views of the week.
Alrighty. My bad. Sorry, walking all over you there, big guy. Go ahead.
That'll be the last time you ever do that. The first and last, Mike. The next time, there won't be no next time.
Wow.
So, what do we got in the news, Mike?
Okay, so, well, I'm going to avoid the obvious boxing circus that took place. There's a lot of news stemming from that. But the main MMA news, the main thing that's happening is Anthony Smith went on Ariel Helwani's, show, the MMA Hour, and he basically,
go on.
Yeah, and he basically said a lot of things. He said that he said that the fighter who beats John Jones, he's scared that the fighter who beats John Jones won't get full credit for beating him. But the other main thing was he was very dismissive of Ryan Spann and called him a nerd. So that was the other thing that happened.
Jeez, is that what we passed for as news lately?
Yeah. Now, now you know what the honest to God big thing though was this. It's not necessarily big in the sense that like you should care about it. Like it's kind of ho-hum, but it just makes me wonder what kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Jesus, what's the word I'm looking for here? What's the lengths people are going to make a quick buck as an MMA fighter? And get ready for OnlyFans watch. The new person who's made it OnlyFans. Drum roll, please. Actually, you get 3 guesses. 3 guesses. Who do you think made it?
New person made an OnlyFans on OnlyFans watch today. Female or male?
Female, sir.
Cyborg.
No.
Joanna.
No.
Michelle Watterson?
If there's a Lord, but no.
Who is it?
It's Jessica Andrade.
Oh, true. Okay.
Yeah, Jessica Andrade just made an OnlyFans. Now, in their OnlyFans, I'm just pulling it up here, so I don't want to be misquoted. But not the OnlyFans, but the OnlyFans bio.
Low econ.
Right. So in her OnlyFans, sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Quits.
No, I already said slow week. Go ahead.
Yeah. Slow week. It's a slow week. But in her thing, she has MMA fighter, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Like I think that matters. And in her bio, it says, "I'm an MMA fan, and I'm here to show my fans my sexy and feminine side. If you want to see what I don't show in the octagon, subscribe now. I guarantee you'll not regret it. Enjoy." Then she's got the 18 plus, 18 with the cross, that says like, if you're not 18, don't come. And then the fire emoji.
Yeah.
Then there's so she's gonna be showing P, and she's probably gonna be showing T, unless she's trolling, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about this other than it is kind of embarrassing that professional athletes have to resort to this. I hope she establishes. I hope she establishes the second revenue stream she's looking for, and not much to say other than that. My take really hasn't changed on this, Mike. I don't think you have anything to add, do you?
Well, I just think it's another example. Like the one thing people have said to me when it comes to this OnlyFans thing that like we've said in the past when it comes to Jessica eating all the Twinkies eye and other fighters is that, oh, you're getting fighters who are on the decline, or you're getting fighters who didn't really make a name for themselves in the like the females division, et cetera, et cetera. Like they never really made it to the big time. Right? If they made it to the big time, the UFC would call them. Well, this is a former champion, right? So
yeah, good point. Former champion, not too far off her title run. I think she's kind of in a space right now where time will tell, but it kind of seems like she's on the decline and that she went up to 125 and was manhandled by the champion. And 25 is one of those divisions where if you show little to no, Mike, your camera's gone. If you show amateur hour over here. If you show little to no promise in the top end of the division, you're just kind of going to be fighting in not so much consolation matches, but it's less interesting a division for that reason. But what can I say? With every one of these that happens, it's a bit of a PR nightmare for the UFC, just because it's another nail in the coffin for fighter pay. I really have nothing more to add. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, just making sure. Am I back? Back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. But yeah, no, the reason why, like, honestly, if any other podcast, any other thing about MMA, this is like whatever. Who cares, right? Obviously, we're going to be talking about the Evander Holyfield debacle that was. But it's just, for me, I think it was just a huge vindication to show that, hey, no, there is an actual issue with fighter pay. Because the one main criticism that we use, that look at these fighters making OnlyFans to make ends meet, isn't that kind of embarrassing, is, oh, look, well, you're getting the Jessica Eyes and the Cindy Dandois of the world, And, Jessica Eye is a former title challenger, but whatever, fine, okay.
What about Paige Van Zandt, former darling of the UFC?
Exactly. Although, technically speaking, on OnlyFans, of PaigeVanZandt.com, but still, the point remains, right?
Same shit.
Exactly. So
the website's irrelevant, but yeah.
But now it's like you're getting a person who won a championship, you know what I'm saying, who had multiple title shots and multiple number one contendership matches. So, this whole argument is out the window now for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, in more relevant news, Kyoji Horiguchi signs with Bellator.
You said relevant. You said relevant.
I did. This man is possibly the best 25er or 35er outside the UFC.
Oh no, I was being sarcastic. It's not relevant at all. Who cares? No.
Actually,
well,
you'll pick up something about a woman creating an OnlyFans page, but you don't care about possibly the best fighter in the world signing with Bellator. Okay. All right, that's fair. Throwing shade at my boy Kyoji. Kyoji's phenomenal. He beat Darian Caldwell twice in Bellator with that crossover series with Rizin. And I'm not going to lie, to me, this is important for two reasons. One, Sergio Pettis, hi Joe Kids, hi Joe Wife. Two, it paves way for him possibly coming back to the UFC if he clears out the division. We'll see. I think he's as good as he's ever been. His wrestling, his boxing, his ring craft has been as good as it's ever been. Additionally, if not Kyoji, who does Rizin have? Who's Rizin's mainstay? Who's their draw without Kyoji Horiguchi? This for me. Right? When was the last time Rizin even put on a card, anyways? So I mean, I think this is the nail in the coffin for Rizin. Unfortunately, there was Pride, then there was Dream, and then Rizin came and teased us with a few interesting matchups, a few interesting prospects from Japan, and we found out it turned out to be a circus, putting on one-night tournaments with Mirko Krokop in them, and They had a few interesting prospects themselves, like Manel Cape, the Asakura brothers, but I think that this is the death rattle here.
Yeah, it just seems that MMA hasn't been able to recover ever since the fall of Pride in Japan, for reasons that are alleged and for reasons that are clearly seen. I think, though, hear me out on this one, because I know I'm going to get some scoffs and some laughs. But what if there is a promotion that is Asian in its roots, but doesn't rely on Japan, on the Japan martial arts scene per se, and can do shows in Japan reliably on a consistent basis?
You wouldn't happen to be referring to One Championship now, would you, Mike?
I would be happening to refer to One Championship.
I would say that One Championship is also not around for a long time either. I think they are not. They have no method of making money. Their financials are dubious. They're losing money in the tens of millions of dollars. And sure, they can put on shows in Japan, but they don't really have the breakthrough Japanese stars. They have stars from other countries, which, admirable as their martial arts scenes may be, don't really have the kind of economy that can can bankroll what One Championship aspires to do, right? They're trying to be this global mixed martial arts organization, and we've talked about it ad nauseum. But unfortunately, Myanmar and the Philippines aren't going to bankroll global expansion, right? Especially when you're streaming for free on YouTube.
There's the issue. They do have the TNT deal, though.
Sure. I just want to know where the money's coming from.
Yeah.
I genuinely think that if you went to Asia and asked a random 100 people off the street, a minority of them would have heard of One Championship. But, keep drinking that Kool-Aid.
It's fair. I am skeptical like you, for sure. I'm just saying, what if, I think the problem that you run into, and I'm not going to get into, the alleged, underbelly of Japan's economy, martial arts scene, mixed martial arts scene. But the problem that you're running into with a lot of these organizations is that they rely solely on a Japanese audience and making money in Japan. And for reasons that I can and cannot disclose, that seems not to be working anymore ever since the fall of Pride. So what if you have a promotion that can rely on like the UFC can rely on other streams of revenue besides the Japan mixed martial arts market, or other markets besides the Japan mixed martial arts market, but can also, unlike the UFC, put shows reliably in Japan on a consistent basis due to geographical location. It doesn't have to be one, but I think one is the closest thing we have so far.
I think geographic location is more important to success in mixed martial arts than you might think, though. Like, Japan is kind of that golden apple at the top of the tree that nobody's been able to pluck since Pride. And a few of the reasons for the lack of success of Japanese MMA has been, like, the fact that Japan is a country, culturally, that goes through trends and fads. And when they're over, they're largely over. As much as we like to think of the UFC as an international organization, and in many ways it is, right? It brings in all kinds of talent from all over the world. Russia, Uzbekistan, China, they have a monopoly on talent at the moment for the most part. Our main problem, though, is that pay-per-views do not take place in the UFC outside of the United States. Why? They're tied to that geographic location because that's where the pay-per-view market is and that's where the dollars are, right? So any promotion that you make is kind of, unless you can get some massive TV deal, is kind of by the wayside. I mean, it's kind of dependent on geographic location anyway, right? People are watching cable less and less nowadays. So unless you can establish some kind of streaming service that gets everybody on board, but
yeah,
it's tricky. Like, you kind of are tied to Japan, Korea, China. Those are the three countries with large middle-class bases that can support this kind of thing. But further down your road, I just don't know that at the moment, Myanmar, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines are worth the effort of trying to establish an A-tier promotion. They can certainly support more local promotions that build up fighters, but
well, my point is just not necessarily that they'll build in the Philippines, although the Philippines isn't like a market to sneeze at, but it's not, that's not my point. My point is that with what if you have a company that doesn't have to rely solely on Japan? Because the thing about Ryzen and the thing about Dream was that if they didn't do a show in Japan or if they couldn't get the Japanese market, game over. You know what I'm saying?
Well, what language would it be broadcast in if it's not going? Are you going to have multiple language broadcasts? And what economy are you going to rely on then? And right. how are you going to make money from it anyways then?
Would you rely on China? Would you rely on on Korea? Right? Could you? Right? And that's the thing, right? Now look, not to tell tales at school, but I know Japan is extremely xenophobic when it comes to their likes and their tastes in entertainment. So
they're also American files, though. Like Japan, generally, a lot of cultural trends from America have been, it originally exports and now mainstays of Japan. Baseball, for instance, is massively popular in Japan and has been for a number of years, right?
I was just about to say, but there is a way you can do it. But for the most part, it's like if it's not Japanese in terms of brand loyalty, get out of here. But you can do it. So I'm saying that I can see a world where one championship can move in, and I'm not saying they become Pride 2.0.
Well, Mike, in order to create a successful company, you need several things, one of which is a source of revenue, which one championship ultimately doesn't have. Moving along.
All right,
last piece of news, and I'm assuming won't have much to say on this, I hope, because we've got to get into the disaster that was the weekend, and we're 20 minutes into this.
Don't worry, it's not going to take long to talk about this disaster, but go ahead.
Debut of a transgender MMA fighter, Alana McLaughlin, took place over the weekend, and the internet is absolutely rife with transphobia. She competed in Combate Americas and defeated a biologically female opponent by rear naked choke in the second or first round, I believe. And Mike, any takes?
I didn't actually get to see it. I wanted to, and then because it was Combate America and not really very accessible and hard to find, I couldn't find it. But I remember leading up to it, it was the talk of the MMA town, and a lot of people were losing their what. I don't know what to think of it because we did have Fallon Fox breaking two girls' skulls. Remember?
The big problem with the Fallon Fox issue is that she didn't disclose that she was transgender. This situation was different. Elena's opponent and the commission knew she was transgender, and she passed a number of medical tests, determining that her hormones and physiology, I don't know exactly what test, but I know hormones were a certain measure of it, fell within acceptable levels. Her opponent signed on the dotted line.
Yeah.
It's not like some guy put on a wig and said, I want to fight women. This is a transgender woman who's been going through hormone therapy and all the processes and was deemed medically fit to fight as a woman. So
I was gonna say, because I was gonna actually kind of say that with Fallon Fox, the whole thing was that you said more astutely. I was gonna say no one really knew, and we didn't know how much of a transition was actually made at the time. But you said more astutely, there was tests, there were dotted lines, they did everything that they possibly could to make it seem, not make it seem, but to make sure it was kosher, I guess, in the broad scheme of things. Look, I'm okay with if someone discloses they're transgender and another consenting adult knows and they both compete, why not? You know what I'm saying? Why not? If they disclose and they go through all the necessary medical tests and someone else knows that's happening, and all kinds of and science that runs its course, I'm okay with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, if as long as all parties are responsible, and like you said, proper tests are done, everything's disclosed and on the table. Well, transgender people are here to stay, and they're a part of society, and some of them are athletes, and they deserve the right to compete. And you can say they enjoy physical advantage over their competition in some senses. Yeah, sure. I mean, so do people who are born the same sex that, identify as that sex. One will often have massive advantages over the other in bone density, in bone structure, in all kinds of things, right?
For sure.
Genetics are inherently unfair.
I think the hang up though was with like, let's say, like, again, bringing it back to Fallon Fox. Like, I hate to kind of harp on her and whatever. I hope she finds peace. But I think the hang up on her was, people just didn't know kind of the honesty with it, and she kind of sidestepped the honesty question all the time. When you go into the world of cycling, there was another person in the world of there was another transgender woman in the world of cycling. She won a lot of gold medals, and again, people just didn't know exactly what was going on. I think with time comes education, and as more people are educated and more people are disclosing what's going on, I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, and as there's more comprehensive methods for transitioning as well, it'll become less of an issue as well, I think.
That's the whole thing too, is that the science wasn't there 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but the science is getting better as we go on.
It's getting better as I might catch flack from this from some people, but as trans people are allowed to transition earlier, and we're able to make the diagnosis for people who are suffering from gender dysphoria, maybe even before they experience the puberty of the opposite gender, they're going to be able to transition. And if they want to compete in whatever event, then we're absolutely going to be able to minimize those physical advantages. I see no issue here. But any
as long as there's honesty. As long as there's honesty, right? There's this, if there's two consenting adults to it. I think even on the other side, there was a man who disclosed who transitioned to female and still competed against males as a Thai boxer.
Not uncommon in Thailand.
Yeah, so there is this kind of there is this thing where people are consenting now. It's good. I think it's going to take a while until you're going to see a transgender athlete in the UFC, for example. But I think we're getting there. And sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, if it comes, it'll be more front and center. I just want to say that if Instagram is a good sample of the MMA community. Obviously, Reddit's a little more progressive, but I'm pretty embarrassed at you guys out there.
Well, what? I think for every 5, what do you call it? Kind of homophobic and transphobic comments. There is that one person who probably has not read, is not educated, and is actually asking legitimate questions for someone who's not reading. You know what I'm saying? Every once in a while you're going to get a person who's just trying to ask questions, right? And so I don't want to put everybody in the same group. But
all right, just asking questions. That old.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're trying to say. I get what you're trying to say. But you get what there are people out there who genuinely would have their minds changed if they had the science. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, hopefully. So, do you want to move on to the absolute shit show that occurred this weekend now? Shall we get a transition?
Transition.
Ding, ding.
Speaking of trans.
Okay, so let's talk about. I don't know where we put this in MMA news or boxing news, or in MMA recap or boxing news. How do we do this with this transition?
I would say boxing. And if we have a transition for absolute mind-numbing cringe, I think that would be more appropriate. How about I want to take a Phillips screwdriver to my temple? Do we have a transition for that? Maybe I want to stick each hand in a separate blender and anything to avoid reliving the pain that was last night. What an embarrassment. Everything was embarrassing about it. I said this in one of the group chats that we're in. To me, Triller is like if you gave some 14-year-old unlimited funds and said, go ahead, put on a boxing event. And then you slipped acid in his drink. Mm-hmm. That is Triller to me. It's just unlimited funds, but embarrassing promotion. Like, it's clear they have no idea how to run a show. The promotional aspect, just to talk about it before we get into the fights, downright awkward. Like, people will just be discussing. They had Donald Trump, which was surreal. It was like I was in some fever dream. Like Donald Trump talking to Junior Dos Santos and Jorge Masvidal, and they'd have this awkward conversation, which was kind of like, it seemed like you were explaining the sport to your uncle who doesn't really watch fighting but knows a few names, and then they just cut off in the middle of the broadcast because someone would talk in their ear mid-conversation.
Yeah. Man, but Triller has not been known for their good fight production because, remember the last card, was it Jake Paul versus Ben Askren?
Ben Askren, yeah.
Where they had like 87,000 promotion performances, or am I tripping? Like there were...
No, that was strange. Yeah, they even had concerts in between the fights in this one. There was some Latin gentleman who I'd never heard of and came up and performed. Did you hear that stuff that went, because it was the 20th anniversary of 9/11?
Yeah.
So they had the moment of silence where they were ringing the bell. Did you hear that woman speaking up in the crowd during that?
Oh, God.
Fuck up! And then a bunch of people are, shut up! You just heard like the rabble, just the peasant rabble from the crowd. And this is there nothing sacred anymore? And then they had the chant after that, we love Trump! We love Trump! My God.
I hate to say it, but because I'm a big person in the idea that everything is politics. I've always tried to argue that. I've argued that in papers and essays and in dissertations. Yeah, everything is politics. But there are some things that don't have to be in the game of politics. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, man, it was tasteless. Especially, we over here in this house have been me and Faustine have been watching some 9/11 documentaries. There's a really good one on Netflix, and
I'm about to watch it.
It's good, and we both experienced 9/11 as a kid, so we kind of got the enormity of it, but reliving it through that documentary and the pain that it caused, it really brought to life just what a chilling and tragic and just senseless affair this was. And 20 years later, for people in the crowd to be disrespecting it in this regard, just absolutely pathetic.
Yeah, it's sad. It's just it just comes down to it. It's like there are some things that honestly, we can all agree we should do. And I think doing a moment of silence without yelling because you're drunk or you just don't give a damn is not right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I say that ironically with the Captain America shield on, but I say that as a Canadian,
Donald Trump, for the most part, in this broadcast I only watched the last two fights. Mm-hmm. He seemed oddly restrained and well behaved. I'm not going to lie. He didn't seem, he avoided politics, and he literally, like I said, just seemed like that uncle that knows a few names. Maybe he's caught some highlights, doesn't know too much about the sport. And it was funny because it was in that regard, he was more behaved than I thought it would be. But it was funny because it was really like he brought down the level of the commentary. You've got George Masvidal and Junior Dos Santos there, and they're having to explain, Trump's in there like, if he gets in there, he's really good. Like, Tito could be really good, but like Anderson's really good from what I hear. And it's like, yeah, Uncle Trump, yeah, he's good, he's really good with this. Yeah. they're just kind of like, I don't know.
Which is sad because like it's like you have it even on like the main broadcast, you had Todd Grisham, which is I think probably the set right behind More Ronaldo and some of the best commentators in the world. He's right there. And the zone commentator, main guy, he's worked his way up the mountain twice to become really good. You have Sean Porter, who's quickly turning into one of the best boxing color commentators in the world, and then you have 50 Cent. And God bless him.
Again, 50 Cent bringing down the level of commentary in that grouping as well. Just not.
Who, by the way, was oddly behaved and was trying his best, but you're just not going to get a good product like that, right?
Yeah. Like I get the gimmick. But I mean, 50 Cent, like, I like some of 50 Cent's hits. I do. I think he's overrated overall as a lyricist. Absolutely. I think he's aged better than some other products, but like, I'm not a 50 Cent hater or anything, but like, I don't see the appeal. It's like Snoop Dogg. Like, why are you wheeling out these old relics? Nobody cares. Like, who is going to watch this show because they heard, 50 Cent's here? Oh, I'm going to tune in. Like, nobody really cares about 50 Cent anymore.
Yeah. With Snoop Dogg, I get it because when they brought him in that one time for the not Ben Askren, for the Nate Robinson Jake Paul fight, he had that one sound bite. So like they thought he would be passable and have a sound bite every once in a while. But
I don't even get the Snoop Dogg thing. Like, who's brought in by Snoop Dogg? Like, people who are fans of disrespectful ignorance. Like, I don't get it.
But no, again, this card wasn't for us. Well, as they tried for it to not be for us. It was for, the casual onlooker who wants to see a circus fight. And I think, and I've talked about this, and I think I'm going to make a video on it. The way MMA promoted itself as an entertainment product and not a product based on athletic competition and skills is why fights like this can be viable, unfortunately. And they're going to keep happening.
It's like Floyd Mayweather's dad once said, people like to see weird shit. And Floyd Sr., I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that's just what it is. Weird shit attracts people. So let's get into some of the fights. Let's start with the only two really worth mentioning, Tito Anderson.
It's sad. I will say there were a lot of legitimate fights that matter. David Haye beat Joe Fournier, for example. Yeah. So
David Haye well past it as well.
He retired, but he's like not far off from retirement. Like I think like.
Are you sure?
He was a former cruiserweight champion, actually. Like he's.
I know. He's got his accolades, but let's see. Haye retired. He retired in May of 2018. Well, he's 40 years old.
Towards the end of his career, though, he was really good. He was finding his stride in heavyweight. I will say, Joe Fournier, is he going to fight Andy Ruiz at some point? No, but, he also was high level. So it's the sad thing in all of this is like, and a couple of these these circus fights, Badou Jack, who took Adonis Stevenson to the limit, has been on some of those cards as well. So the sad thing in all this is in the undercard, they do have some interesting stylistic fights.
Oh, now, yeah. It's funny, though, because me as a not a hardcore boxing fan, I'm a casual boxing fan more than anything else. I know some of the names. I like to see a high exhibition of skill, but I don't follow it religiously. I had no idea. I know who David Haye is. I had no idea David Haye was fighting on this card. I'm just like, oh, hey, let me see a 60-year-old man potentially die here.
Yeah, I know it's true. I just want to just kind of say that every once in a while, like Jared Hurd got upset by Oasis in the Jake Paul. Was it? No. It wasn't Logan Paul Floyd Mayweather card one time.
Mm-hmm.
So they're legit things that happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just they get overshadowed by filth.
But if you think people are tuning into these shows to see Jake Paul or Logan Paul or, Paul McCartney fight and be like, hey, high-level boxing before that? That's pretty cool. I think I'll stick around for another card with high. They're not doing that. People who are tuning in to see these cards are not interested in your Badu Jacks or your David Hayes.
Yeah.
They're there
to watch filth.
They're there to see Christians get eaten by some lions. They're there. That's what they're there for. They're there to see the Colosseum flooded and circus animals fighting against, 100 members of the Praetorian Guard. I stretch this metaphor as far as it can go. But
that's a good.
Shall we talk freak fights?
Yes, please. Sorry for the.
No. I appreciate you getting into some of the more legitimate fights that got into this card, but let's talk Anderson Silva, Tito Ortiz. So Tito Ortiz, first of all, walking out with that thin blue line flag, man, seeming so intent to bring animosity to Anderson Silva as well. And then he just got out there and, man, just threw these. His boxing looked pathetic, uneducated, slow. He looked like when he was in the corner on Anderson Silva and threw those 4 left hooks in a row, he looked like he was trying to swat a fly with an oven mitt. Just awful. I mean, what do you expect? He's not, he wasn't a particularly gifted striker.
Faustine loved that one, didn't she?
Faustine's dying in the background.
Sometimes we need a crowd audience. Like we need like
live audience.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny.
But you know what? I will say, look, I hate to laugh at tragedy, but I take great pleasure in Tito Ortiz embarrassing himself every time.
Oh, Tito Ortiz is absolutely odious human being. Yes. From his politics to his conduct outside of the ring to him parading around a victory over, a Chuck Liddell that is well past his prime and can barely move as a legitimate win. He is just a creature from the depths of hell. And,
allegedly being his ex-wife, allegedly.
But... Allegedly. Running, getting kicked off the Huntington Beach Council because he's incompetent. But, yeah, I mean, Anderson, I don't think Anderson was expecting it to be over that quickly. He just exhibited good head movement, as he does, just bobbing and weaving and making Tito miss, and then opened up with one lead hook and followed up subsequently, and Tito was face first in the canvas, and that's basically what happened.
Yeah. A couple things. And it goes back to, if you know you can't make the weight, why do you sign on the dotted line? Tito looked absolutely drained for a weight cut that he missed by 5 pounds, by the way.
Oh, his biceps looked like they were, they looked tiny. They looked like the circumference of like a rolled up Bristol board or something. Like his arms looked tiny, like he clearly drained himself to make 200 pounds, and he's making a big stink about Anderson Silva choosing the weight limit and stuff. I gotta be honest, I think in this kind of fight, it matters a little less to me. We're not talking about two ultra competitive people vying for an advantage at championship weight.
Yeah.
We know what we're doing. This is a circus.
But see, this is my thing, is that
each other.
No, sorry. I'm sorry. I keep cutting you off today. This is
No, go for it. That's it. That's all I have to say. It's a circus.
My thing in all this circus is first of all, this is also the second fight that a fighter has missed weight for an Anderson Silva fight, and the other one was Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who once fought at 167, which is insane. But
yeah.
The thing,
as Tito Ortiz missing weight takes away any legitimacy that this event was,
Yeah. But the other thing for me is that Anderson Silva used to fight at 185. You used to fight at 205. What's the middle? 195. If you can't agree to it, you know what you do? You negotiate. If they still don't want to do it, you don't fight. You don't do it. Like,
I don't really care, to be honest.
Yeah, like it's just, for me, it's just one of those stupid things where it's like,
if this fight was taking place in 2005, if this fight was taking place in 2008, you might have a point. I'd be like, yeah, Tito Ortiz is gaining an unfair advantage against Anderson Silva. It didn't matter in the end.
No, it didn't.
This is not a legitimate fighting promotion. This is spectacle more than
I'm just mad at the like complaining of it. You get what I'm saying? When it's
but that's by far the least egregious thing Tito Ortiz has said in his life.
It's a fair point. But then, the fight happens and he gets embarrassed. Like he gets knocked out in literally a minute. 1 minute. That's
88 seconds to be exact. Yeah, pathetic. No sweat off Anderson's shoulders. And then in the main event, first of all, before we get into the main event, I just want to say that, how they did the whole national anthem thing and they showed the slideshow during the national anthem?
Mm-hmm.
I was dying because as they were showing that little package they put together showing the United States and Brazil, it's like, what stock footage website did you guys get these off of? Like, they're showing the one of Brazil and there's like some waterfall and there's some dude texting on his phone in the middle of the waterfall shot. Like, did you guys buy a drone and take this footage yourself? I don't get it. Like, I could have put together a better hype package. These weird jump cuts too. Everything about Triller is just
it's shoddy. It's shoddy. It's second rate. So
there was that, and then in the main event, Vitor Belfort beat up Evander Holyfield, who, as we suspected, looked thoroughly washed. How could he not? He's nearly 60. Unable to string together a combination, and to me, this didn't really look like an exhibition of boxing so much as Vitor Belfort landing a single combination and then just bludgeoning Evander Holyfield repeatedly.
He still argued about the stoppage.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Evander's going to argue about the stoppage. I don't blame the man. Yeah, he is the heart of a champion. He was one of the best boxers in the world, but like, the blame lays squarely on the shoulders of Triller and the commission. The referee mercifully stepped in to stop this one. Vitor looked quite slow compared to prime Vitor himself. How could he not? But Evander Holyfield, there was one moment where he attempted to throw a left hook and just slipped out the ring. And it just looked like satire. This fight was satire.
Oh, man. Okay, I want to take us through the entire week because I think, first of all, we have time to fill. And second of all, I want to take us through the entire week to just explain the stupidity of everyone involved and how everyone should feel dirty. And some people should be taken to Congress for this because it was originally Oscar De La Hoya. For people who don't know, it was originally Oscar De La Hoya versus Vitor Belfort at 185. Okay? Keep in mind, Oscar De La Hoya in his heyday was a fighter who fought at 154. Like, that was his heyday, 154, 147. That's prime Oscar, but whatever. California sanctions the fight. You don't, as silly as it is, you don't try to take away people's dreams. And California has a rule: if you show us that you're competent, we will let you do it despite our best wishes. Andy Foster has talked about this rule over and over again. It's a thing. Okay, whatever. So the fight's going to happen, and then Oscar De La Hoya has COVID, so he has to step out. In comes Evander Holyfield, who opened as a 2-1 favorite on the betting lines, by the way. Not gonna lie, made out like I did because I picked Vitor the second that change was made.
Wait, but who opened as a favorite on the betting line?
Evander Holyfield.
Vitor?
58-year-old Evander Holyfield opened up as a 2-1 favorite. I swear to God.
Shitting me. Where was this bet? I didn't know about this betting line. I would have put my life savings on that shit.
Yeah, I put $200, made out like $400 on this 2-1. So
oh boy.
Yeah. It was on Pro Line, by the way. Thank you.
Okay.
Mwah. Love you. So what's it called? Yeah. So the fight. So 58-year-old Evander Holyfield. Here is strike one. Here's strike one. The fight gets moved from California to Florida because California, who let coked up Oscar De La Hoya fight 30 pounds up from his heyday, didn't want to give Evander Holyfield a license.
And so they went to the land of the swamp.
They went to Florida. That's
And
right.
Florida said, I see no issue here. I see no issue with a 58-year-old Evander Holyfield, who, by the way, 15 years ago was denied by the New York Commission to fight because he couldn't clear medicals. Florida's like, yeah, okay, sounds okay to me. Like, who is the head of the Florida Athletic Commission one of those like cats that you see in the Chinese restaurant? Like with his fist, like what absolute dope, what absolute like inbred, brainless, like troglodyte do they have as the head of the Florida Commission? Do they just have like a suit stuffed with cotton sitting in a chair? You know, like what is who signed off on this? And to be fair, this ended a lot better than we thought it would have. I thought Evander could have died, and easily with a less merciful referee, he could have. Like this was just
yeah. The only person who is a hero in this is this referee, because that could have been horrible. But there's
and then
more.
The commentary team afterwards, you know, oh, that was not Evander Holyfield. Well, no fucking shit. He's 60 years old. Oh, that wasn't Evander. What were you expecting? What? When you saw James Toney beating on this man nearly 2 decades ago, and that didn't seem like Evander Holyfield. What did you expect? What did you expect?
What good reference. The James Toney fight was uncomfortable to watch.
That was uncomfortable, and that was like 2 decades ago, was it not?
But yeah, I just want to explain, because I think people just really don't understand the red flags that took place. Because we get to the media day.
2003, by the way, the James Toney versus Evander Holyfield too. So yeah, nearly 2 decades ago.
Yeah, where James Toney, who by the way was not right himself, beating on Evander Holyfield. But okay. Because I do want to explain this, because I think people just don't understand. Like, people are saying, oh, well, you know, who could have seen that out there? Like, for any of those people out there, I just want to explain why we're so upset. Why people are calling for arrests to be made. Because this was a disgrace. A media day happened. By the way, I've talked about, like, kind of the guy I know, the mysterious guy in the back who sends me clips or sends me stuff. When Evander Holyfield was planning to make his comeback to fight Mike Tyson another time, I was actually privy to some information, privy to some video. Evander looked slow. Sorry?
Evander looked slow? Wait, when Tyson was supposed to fight Evander, you mean?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Go on.
It was just before the Roy Jones Jr. fight, by the way. Before in around that time.
So you were privy to some footage going?
I was privy to some footage, privy to some knowledge about how Evander looked. He looked slow. His nerves looked shot, as in, you list some commands, like, when it's me and you, we're holding the pads for each other, you list some commands, it's like, okay, do a 1, 2, 3, do this, right? Evander just looked as slow as molasses, but also looked like his nerves were shot, like he couldn't get to the commands right. Still heart of a champion, got himself in good shape, but just something felt off. So I kind of already knew, but media day comes around, and Evander can't string a sentence together. We all saw the tape. Don't pretend like you haven't. He can't string a sentence together. He's taking a while to answer questions. He trails off towards the end. You know what I'm saying? Definitely the signs of someone who is in cognitive decline.
Yeah.
Right? Now, this isn't a diss to Evander. This is not, the entire time, I want to preface what I'm going to say with, this is not on Evander. This is not on Evander. Okay? But he clearly is in cognitive decline. So he goes and he puts on the gloves and they hit the pads and he's doing his workout, his open workout. And there was a clip I sent you guys in the group chat of Vitor Belfort and Evander Holyfield side by side. And even with slow ass Vitor Belfort, it was night and day. It was night and day, right? So already we are scared for Evander's life. But people, I had a guy on YouTube because I was arguing on the Weasel group chat about why this is a bad idea. Weasel was arguing it. A lot of smart people were arguing it. And he says, oh, the thing you MMA fans don't realize is Evander's not hitting the pads for power. He's not trying to give his best. He's just trying to get his form right. He's just trying to get his technique right. This was a legitimate person telling me that Evander was just going through the motions. You know?
Yeah, that's pathetic.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the most flawed and pathetic justifications I've heard of an irresponsible commission absolutely failing to do its job. Like, you're telling me that it's him going through the motions? What about all the failed commission tests that happened 15 years ago and continue to happen that Triller had to go commission shopping to try and put this event on? Yeah, commissions exist to protect fighters from themselves because this isn't on Evander.
Yeah.
Evander's going to fight. Evander will fight on his deathbed, right? Evander could probably have an IV hooked up to him and he's going to be swinging punches. This is why commissions exist, so that we prevent things like this. And the fact that they're being facilitated, to me, is sickening. I hope Triller goes out of business. I hope their CEO gets run over by a car, and then and then the driver looks in the rearview mirror, backs up, and runs over him again. There, I said it.
Man, it was sick because even, you know why I knew Evander was going to fall? I had a bet with, I think it was Jeremy actually, that Evander was going to fall on the first hook he threw because when he was doing the pads, yeah.
Damn, Mike, you're Nostradamus over here.
No, but here's why. Because when he was throwing the hook in the open workout, do you notice that he actually crossed his feet and started to fall?
When he was, I didn't. That's a bad sign. That shows a lack of
hip mobility.
Maybe hip mobility. Maybe it could be like a nervous system issue as well, right? Like nervous system just isn't firing right.
Yeah, that could also be it too, and that probably is the more probable one now that I think about it, because he is in cognitive decline.
Because crossing your feet, I mean, I don't care how much hip mobility you're lacking, you're not going to cross your feet from a lack of hip mobility. I think he's just, oh man.
No, go back and watch the tape again, like when he's doing the open workout, because he's like falling into the hook, and as a result has to turn his feet, and the pad almost like saves him from falling down. So
that's awful.
It's terrible. It's garbage. So like I think it was either Jeremy or my friend Kevin. I remember going, he's gonna fall on the first hook he throws. On the first power hook he throws, he's gonna fall. Watch. And I actually have the text. He goes, "You called it." I was like, "Yeah." Yeah. So all to say, you get what you get, and I hope the Florida State Athletic Commission get taken to Congress. Every single member of that board, including the secretary. Triller should be arrested on the spot for that. And this whole practice of a decentralized, each individual state gets its own commission needs to end. Because,
hey man, that's a flaw with capitalism in the United States generally. It's called race to the bottom. You know, it doesn't just happen with mixed martial arts. It happens with oil drilling companies. Not to get too into, you know, who has the lowest corporate taxes and the lowest environmental regulation? Nebraska. Let's go there. You know, this is a flaw of the American system more generally. So yeah. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. I would love it to, but
look, it's just, you know, I'm stupid. I'm not going to get into all the ills of American society. But I will say this. There is a line with this, because, you know, we're getting into this whole thing of the YouTube boxers and guys coming out of retirement who admittedly look good. Like Mike Tyson didn't look horrible, you know. But we're getting into this age. But we have to remember that as humans, not, you know what I'm saying, not as Americans or Canadians or Polish, or as human beings, there is a line that we cannot cross, that we must not allow people to cross.
Precisely.
And we've crossed it. Last night we crossed it.
I think hopefully we can take this as a lesson in the combat sports community. We tried out the old man fights. What we saw on Saturday night was an absolute pathetic display. Someone could have gotten really hurt, but they didn't, and it's not too late. If we keep doing this, inevitably, someone will get very, very hurt, and it will not be pretty, and blood will be on all of our hands, and it will stain all of us in combat sports, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Because that's how the general public views things,
Yeah.
Parting thoughts?
Well, I do want to get into the whole idea of like why Evander did this, and there's some speculation. There's a lot of reasons. Yeah, Stefano, can you do that again for the money for the camera? Can you there you go.
I got me. Money.
Evander's got his. Okay, I'll put it to you like this: Evander's children are in the tens. He has double-digit amount of children.
He has double-digit children?
A double-digit amount of children.
What a virile man.
Right? With multiple wives. Which means, well, multiple women. I won't say wives because you don't know, but multiple women. Which means Evander Holyfield had to pay a lot of people a lot of money.
And I've heard he's had bad managers over the days. I heard his first manager, I don't know if you can confirm this story, was just a car dealer that he knew from his hometown in Atlanta. Because he was the only person I knew who was good with money. So he's like, yeah, he literally chose a used car dealer to be his manager, right? So, typical. It's a tale as old as boxing itself. It's a sport of the downtrodden, and then the downtrodden get experience some success, and then they're trod on along the way by people with looking to exploit a quick buck off of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so, like it's. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I'm sure. Not to be a little less cynical, I'm sure he had other reasons. I'm sure Evander Holyfield obviously wanted a quick payday, which is understandable, right? Probably also there was the thrill of getting back in the ring and competing. As there's that desire within us to compete and win and fight, and that carries with you into old age. For a lot of people, that never disappears. So the body may degrade, but the fighter spirit does not. As hard as it is to quantify, as old as you get, you're always going to feel like you can do it. And that's why it's so easy to talk these fighters into coming back into the ring. A lot of them, they're like addicts. It's a rush, and not just a rush, like not to speak of it just like a drug. It's also such a core part of you that never goes away, even when your physical abilities decline. So it's something that you're going to pursue against logic and against what's advisable and what's reasonable, because quite frankly, a career in combat sports isn't logical or reasonable or the best thing you can do, right? But
hey man, at the end of the day, it's like this. A 60-year-old fighter, a 60-year-old man, well, 58, let's be precise. As good of a shape that he could be in, and Evander, let's be honest, was in great shape. Mm-hmm. Like physically, a 60-year-old man or nearly 60-year-old man should not be fighting unless it's to defend his family. There it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
That I agree.
Well, you have some stories, sir, apparently.
Okay. Yeah, I'll tell the story, then we'll wrap it up because we're at an hour. We managed to stretch very little content into an hour.
We always do. We find a way.
So I have been rolling at a number of gyms down here in NYC, and the other day I rolled with an unnamed black belt under John Danaher, who we can have on the podcast sometime. I'll bring him on, and Went over to his place, rolled with him, and he does what a black belt under John Danaher would be expected to do to me. There are some submissions there, right? A few heel hooks, and he showed me the way. He showed me the way, and to keep the story brief, I asked him afterwards. I'm like, "So tell me, what do you think? Is my level around, or is my level like commensurate to brown belts in New York City? What do you think?" He's like, "Yeah, man. Yeah, you're good. You're around the level of other brown belts in New York City." I'm like, "Okay, that's good." He's like, Your upper body stuff is phenomenal. We just got to work on those leg locks." And my heart sunk in my chest. I'm like, thanks. There's levels to this game, my friends, and I, who pride myself as a leg locker, evidently has quite a bit to learn. So there you have it, folks.
Man, that's funny. It's like, hey, your best thing. Well, it's not your best thing, but you pride yourself on it. He goes, yeah, it's a trash.
Well, I'll see if I can get him on the podcast sometime. But yeah, very very good jiu-jitsu down here, leveling up in all aspects, so that I can bring it back to the T-Dot. And I think that wraps us up for this week. Subscribe to the podcast. You can find us where podcasts are found. Like the video. Tell your friends about the leg kick. Tell them about our thick, juicy legs at the Leg Thick podcast. Unless you want to be put in one of our triangles where our thick, juicy legs will squeeze the life out of your body. Mike, to play us out. What does that mean again?
Fuck it, we'll do it live. All right. In the crazy mixed up world where, Trump was on a boxing broadcast. The former president of the United States was on the boxing broadcast.
That's right, former.
Let's get Obama on one. Just remember.
We need to change for the future.
I don't know how Obama turned to Bill Clinton all of a sudden, but okay.
No, Bill Clinton's a little more like this. "I'm sorry, Mr. Epstein. I'm going to have to do you dirty."
Oh no, there goes our monetization. Just remember, you got 3 things. You got life, you got family, and this podcast. Take it easy, everybody.